Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. My name is Matthew and thank you for being here for another episode of Beyond the Lines. It's the show where we get an opposition supporters' view when it comes to previewing Newcastle's next game. And this Sunday, 4:30, London is calling for Newcastle for the second time in 3 away games as Newcastle travel to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to take on Spurs. And to help me preview this one, I am joined by a podcaster, a Last Word On Spurs, a Tottenham fan. He's a fanatic. He supports Tottenham. That's why he's here. It's Ricky, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? All right?
Hey there, Matty. Not bad. Not sure about fanatic and Tottenham in the same sentence the way it's been going the last few years, but I'll let you have that one.
Well, I mean, we'll obviously get on the game. That's why we're here. But before we do speak about the game, we'll speak about Spurs in general. Fifth in the table, 3 points off fourth. Granted, Arsenal do have a game in hand. But, I mean, I'm not going to try and go over old ground for you being a massive Spurs fan. But despite being in the top six, Spurs have had, especially this calendar year, a mixed bag. And if you could just indulge me for a second, Ricky, just to give people an idea who haven't been taking notice of Spurs, they got beat at home to Southampton and Wolves back-to-back, so that's a low. Then the following week, they beat Man City away 3-2 in a very good performance. That's a high. Then 4 days later, they got beat at Turf Moor 1-0, relegation threatened Burnley. That's a low. But then they went to Leeds and won 4-0. That's a high. But then they were knocked out by Middlesbrough of the Championship in the following weekend to the FA Cup. That's a low. And then went to beat Everton 5-0. That's a high. Then Cristiano Ronaldo scored a hat-trick and caused a 3-2 defeat at Old Trafford. That's a low. And then you come off the back of 2 impressive wins against Brighton and West Ham. That's a high. Just let me know what you're feeling right now. And does that mean that Newcastle are going to win at the weekend, signifying another low?
That's the best way to put it, Matty. I've actually laughed and joked about the win-loss cycle, but when it's read out like that, it's even more quite embarrassing.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I was looking at it. Even like the Middlesbrough defeat plunked in there. It was just crazy.
What I think is even more weird is when you think Spurs have won, I think 4 out of their last 5 out of their last 7, which is quite unbelievable when you read that sequence, just the way the competitions have fallen. I think just Spurs, again, it's been a season of that word transition, obviously changing the manager a couple of months in Nuno, that quite frankly just was out of his depth for obviously Conte, who is, again, I think we all know is a class manager. But only when it comes down to Spurs, I know you had a similar situation with your board. It's whether they're going to back the manager and give him the tools that he needs to succeed. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Spurs are in that quandary right now. They've almost somehow stumbled upon, again, a world-class manager. It's incredible to think they've had Pochettino, Mourinho, Mourinho, Pochettino and Conte in the space of 5 years. And so one, you think, but that is Tottenham. I mean, we are along with yourselves, we're probably the serial underachievers in the Premier League, to be honest with you. So something that's got to give eventually. You'd like to think that Conte's there because there's a genuine belief he's going to get backed. But it's difficult to know in reality if that's going to happen, because I feel Spurs have got themselves a win-now manager and Tottenham as a club aren't ready to win now. So something
that's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, something's going to have to change over the summer, really, if Spurs are going to be successful under Conte, because Conte's not coming to Tottenham to finish 4th. Conte's coming to Tottenham because he generally feels that he can compete to win a league, and that's what worries me, because I think with Tottenham, our board, our philosophy, our structure is almost, we're happy to try and finish 4th. And I think if we go on a cup run, brilliant. But I think for the club, their ambition is to be in the top 4, and that's all. And I worry that Conte isn't that same-minded. I think he wants to actually win the Premier League and try and go in the further stages of the Champions League. And I'm not sure if a club if we're ready for that, if I'm being honest with you. So, again, I think the summer's going to be, once again, for Spurs fans, again, another eye-opener. Will they back the manager? Will they give him exactly what he wants? Will remain to be seen. But, yeah, I mean, this is a massive game for Spurs at the weekend, which I'm sure we're going to come on to, because if Spurs are going to have any chance of persuading Conte to stay, you have to feel that Champions League will be a big, big decider in that for his future.
I mean, you're speaking about Conte there. Let's move on to the man himself. Obviously, a good appointment. Any club appointing Antonio Conte, his track record speaks for itself. But, I mean, it's already been like a sort of condensed version of what he does over a couple of seasons at a club. I mean, I'm not saying he had an instant effect, but he had some decent results. But it's been up and down. And I'm more like commenting towards Ricky, the comments after that Burnley game. I know it was quite a while ago now, but when he sort of said something along the lines of maybe I'm not as good as people think I am, something like that. Where's that effect? Was that right?
Yeah, I think Spurs have broken him in, 4 months, then they've broken other managers, to be fair. I mean, I think the poor bloke was feeling what we've been feeling as fans for years, that there's just this lack of a winning mentality within the club, and ultimately questioning himself whether he can get that over the line. And I just don't know whether this current board, I think it, like any club, and I think Matty, you had owners there that you didn't agree with over the course of, a period of time with Mike Ashley. And I think the problem is that it comes from the top. If from the top there's not the direction, ambition to win, that filters downwards. And unfortunately, I think at Tottenham, there's been too much focus on building the stadium, building the training ground, building a squad that's good enough young-wise, and then trying to maybe look to profit on players as they get older. And you can't run a sustainable business like that and expect to win on the pitch. You can do well on the in the accounts and in the finances, but it doesn't actually get you trophies. So, I mean, Spurs fans to have one trophy in the last 20 years is just... I mean, this is a Tottenham side that when I was growing up, we was a cup team. We can't really call ourselves a cup team because we haven't won a cup to justify that. So, whilst the club have listened in the last 5 to 7 years, have got in the Champions League on a fairly consistent basis down to Pochettino, I think there's still a lot of work to be done at Tottenham to really establish themselves as a top 4 club. They've got a top 4 manager. They've got some top 4 players.
Got a top 4 stadium and a top 4.
Exactly, yeah. Top 4 stadium, top 4 training ground. But where they are at the moment, it's not enough for Spurs to get into, I believe, the higher echelons of the Premier League. So I think we all want Conte to stay. We're just all going to pray and hope he's back over the summer.
Have you seen a difference in the style of play and the way you've been going about matches under Conte?
Well, I think the problem is, Matty, under Nuno, we didn't have a shot on target over the course of quite a few games. So if I've been honest with you, I think it was to a point.
I'm used to it, mate. That's the Newcastle.
Yeah, I think if had anyone come in, it would have been an improvement. But listen, Conte, I think we can definitely see patterns of play, and there's definitely the players are committed and hungry and willing to fight for him. I think we saw in the space of Nuno going out to Conte coming in the first couple of games that the players went from running the least in the Premier League to the most. Mm-hmm. So on that basis alone, you would feel that. Listen, under Conte, there's definitely been an improvement. We had some really weird results. You read some of them there. Losing at home to the likes of Southampton and Wolves. Again, manager's culpable as well in that. You can't just put it all against the players. Manager selects the team. I think, again, he's had a very limited squad to work with. But, yeah, collectively, I'll be honest with you, I think when you look at Spurs, I still think we're quite a number of players away from a top 4 finish. It'd be amazing if we got top 4 because I just think it's due to the erratic nature of United this season that have allowed a spot to become available there. So it's whether Spurs can ultimately go on a run now. And I think the worst thing you can say to a Spurs fan now is there's 9 cup finals to go because Spurs don't win.
You don't do very well in those or even get to those. Yeah, that's not a dig, by the way.
No.
But like you said, games of going through games with 0 shots on target, that was something we became used to, especially under the previous manager. I'm not certainly not the state of play now, but I'll end up eulogising about Eddie Howe a bit too much if I go down that path. But let's speak about the players a little bit. I'm going to probably ask you a question that is as stale as 50-year-old crisps, if that's even a thing. Harry Kane, obviously massive player for you guys. Is he ever going to leave Spurs?
I think at the moment, Kane's got, after this season, 2 years left on his deal. Suddenly the power shift towards Kane than it does to Tottenham. Because, essentially in the summer previous summer, obviously Spurs were in a bit more of a power position, having 3 years on his deal. They were holding the chips. As those years count down, Spurs' power and control over the player gets less and less. So, again, really... I think it's whether Conte stays as well. I think Conte's massively linked to Kane's future. I think the club have shown that they've made some really poor appointments in the last... certainly the last manager before Conte was really, really poor. I think if you said to him, he said Mourinho he really liked working with, Pochettino who he adored. So I think ultimately we've got to match Kane's ambition. And Kane's ambition is to win titles, win cups. And that, I think, is down to backing Conte. So... I'd love to sit here and say that he's going to finish his career in Matty, but honestly, I'm not too sure. It really depends on what Spurs' decisions are on the pitch. If Spurs want to be a big club and want to win trophies and back the manager, then there's every chance Kane will finish his career here. I think, again, the indication we'll know is in the summer, won't it really be? If Conte's here, then I would imagine Kane will hopefully, continue and he'll hopefully sign a new contract with the club. If Conte isn't here, I can't imagine Kane will want to stay. Yeah. But... Lots of big decisions, Matty. That's a very difficult one because of where Spurs are right now, where the manager's future's at.
I mean, I'm just looking. I'm just trying to do two things at once and look at Harry Kane's statistics. 178 Premier League goals. As a Spurs fan, you've watched him week in, week out. You're on a Newcastle podcast. Do you think injuries allowing, he could break the big man's record, Big Al's record? Could he break Shearer's record?
I think it will. I think it's inevitable. It's not if, it's when. And listen, Allen's record is incredible. But Kane, it's funny because I see so many comments about Kane from rival fans, and I don't think people realise just how good Harry Kane is. You know,
no, I know what you mean. Sorry to cut you off there, mate, but I really do know what you mean, because I've seen people sort of, I mean, especially, I think the Euros sort of epitomised that. I appreciate, I was probably throwing some shade his way because sometimes he went looking for the ball, he came deep, similar to what he does at Spurs. But he comes alive in the best in some situations, and you think, how's he finished that? Or he just finds that yard. And
mate, it's also his passing range is quite phenomenal as well, and that's not given enough credit as well. I think Kane is almost the complete player centre forward. I just think, he can do a job wherever he is. Defensively from corners, he's great. Build up play, superb. Finishing wise, it's funny because as you know, he didn't score at all in August, had a really poor start to the season. And everybody was saying, I don't think Kane even is going to finish in the top 10. If you look at where he is now, Kane can still finish in the top 4 or 5 goal scorers this season. And that's bearing in mind he missed most of August, didn't play because of his situation surrounding the football club where he didn't train. And I think, again, his goal ratio recently has been brilliant. I think, again, was it 7 in the last 10 games, Kane? So, listen, he's a great striker. There's no doubt Harry Kane, you don't lose that class. I mean, even when at the start of the season, when all that was going on, I mean, he refocused, which isn't easy because it's the champions that have come calling. It's an opportunity to go and win a league with Guardiola, completing the Champions League with a view to winning it. So, I mean, for me, Kane is class. If we can have a few more players like Harry Kane, Spurs would be in a different conversation altogether.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he is hoping for that big move abroad as a massive Alan Shearer fan. I mean, look, we can't really compare the two. I know people like to say greatest strikers of all time, but at the end of the day, at the end of Harry Kane's career, he's going to be certainly in that conversation, whether he breaks the record or not.
Absolutely.
But look, before we move on to the game, the last question I'll ask you is what your hopes for the rest of the season. Of course, it's Champions League football, but I mean, are you confident that you can push that till the final day?
Really good question. I think, when you look at the running, Arsenal have probably got the toughest out of the top 4 candidates. So I'm confident with Spurs, the fixtures they've got. I mean, they're all probably by Liverpool away. They're all winnable. So Conte came into the job going unbeaten in his first 9 Premier League games, and Spurs are going to need probably majority of those to win if they stand a chance at top 4. So, I'm confident Spurs will take it to the final day. I just feel they've given themselves a lot of work to do because of results like you read out earlier, the Southampton, the Wolves at home. I mean, really, if you're going to finish in the top 4, those are the games you've got to win.
Yeah, I mean, it must be frustrating, like you say, look back at them, especially, I mean, I took very vested interest in that Burnley game, of course, because we're down there. We were down there with Burnley. I mean, I'm not saying that we're safe yet by no means, but at that time it was a bit tighter. Burnley, your Wolves and Southampton at home. I mean, it sort of rings a little bit of that's not a drag up bad memories, Ricky, but I mean, that Leicester title winning season where, if you just won them, a handful of games, you might have just pipped them to it. So
Spurs, Matty, we saw Chelsea, I think they won 15, 16 games in a row to stop us. So even when Spurs have been up there contesting for a title, there's always been something that's unfortunately stopped us from progressing. But listen, we can't play that victim line. I think, you control your own destiny at the end of the day. And Spurs, for whatever course the line, haven't got over the line. And I think with Conte, that's why Champions League football will be so imperative for the club. It will give them some real foundation going into the summer. And they can actually build on what they're trying to do there, which Conte, listen, I think what anyone thinks about the end result with Conte, he does win along the way. But I mean, lots of people said that about Mourinho, and look what happened at Tottenham. So again, I'm pretty much, as you can probably tell, feet on the ground, been there, seen it far too many times, Matty, to get carried away.
Yeah, fair play. It's being realistic, not pessimistic, as I would say.
Yeah, I think you've got to be realistic as a Spurs fan. There is some of us still realistic, not getting carried away. You do get the obviously odd one or two, which I'm sure you've come across in your time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, it's been sort of beaten out of us for the last 5-10 years. But, now Certainly, 100%. There's these people who have very dreams of things happening a bit sooner than they will if they are going to happen. You know,
Absolutely,
they're getting a bit ahead of themselves. Yeah. You know, you're going to have that, and power to them. There's nothing wrong with a bit of optimism, but measure it with a bit of realism. So the weekend's game, from the outside looking in, Ricky, Newcastle United, what have you made of them? I mean, obviously we've went on this ridiculous run since January. Eddie Howe's came in. He's not just bought some players and then threw them into the squad. He's changed players such as Joe Linton, Joe Willock, John Joe Shelby, Fabian Schär, and he's got us keeping a few clean sheets, scoring goals. Obviously, we're coming off the back of 2-1-0 defeats to Chelsea, which we were robbed in, and a bad second half performance against Everton. But these things happen. Hopefully we'll still be in decent form when it comes Sunday, but how confident are you? I appreciate it's probably still a game you need to look at getting points from if you're going to get what you want from this season. But personally, how do you feel going into the fixture?
Yeah, first I've got to say, I really like Eddie Howe. I'll be honest with you, I really turned my nose up when he was put forward to manage Spurs on a number of occasions, but I think for Newcastle has been the perfect fit. I think just looking from the outside, the fans just seem to really love him. He seems to love the fans. There's that real connection there. And then speaking as a fan, I was born, not to give away my age too much, I was born kind of at the back end of the 89 and early 90s. So for me, Newcastle have always been a big club to me. They've got a big fan, great supporter base. And as a fan, I take a little bit of a softer side when I see supporters like yourselves that travel all around the country supporting that team, giving everything, and a board that just didn't really ever care. So to see Newcastle doing well, taking out in terms of the organisation being funded it or whatever you think about that, I'm actually really pleased to see Newcastle in a place where the fans are so happy, and they're loving their football club, because it's been too long where that place was soulless there at that stadium. So again, don't wish me any luck for Sunday, but I do listen. I really am enjoying seeing Newcastle back where they belong for me as a club that should be in that top 10, top 6. And no doubt, I think, judging by all accounts, Matty, you'll probably win it before us. No doubt.
I don't know. I mean, look, people who watch this know that I'm the biggest I'm the most pessimistic Newcastle supporter probably on earth. But I'm taking each step as it comes. For me, it's no guarantee that we're staying up still. I'm not saying we're definitely going down. I'm not saying we're still in the shit. It's very much in our hands. We only need about 4 or 5 more points probably, and we'll be okay. But I just want to take that. Once that monkey's off our backs and we're staying up, then we'll look to the summer. But I think what you're saying, Ricky, forget about the ownership for now. There are definitely questions that are, within the rights to be asked 100%. But from a purely football and point of view, it's just, we're just after a club that's trying to be better than the season before.
Can't doubt since listen, like you just said, taking the organisation out, what's funding it. When you look at what Eddie Howe's built there, the signings that he's made, the players that have built into what he's trying to do. Again, it could have been very easy for Newcastle to go out and splash 70, 80 million on a lot of players that might have looked great in FIFA. But what he's actually got is a lot of hard-working players there that will give everything for that club. And I think that's probably been the best way to go. Yes, obviously there's been a couple of poor results there. Is it back-to-back defeats? But, as a whole, listen, Eddie Howe's done a great job there. I do believe Newcastle will be safe, purely on the basis that that squad's got real belief in it. They go to the end of games, and I think that is what will serve you well, hopefully not for Spurs, but for the remaining 8-9 games you've got to come. I think Newcastle are just too strong now as a club. And I know I don't want to put the mockers on it, but when you look at the other teams in the battle for relegation, Everton look like they're in free fall. Burnley, I know they've got games in hand, but they're going to give themselves a massive job. Norwich, to me, look already down. So I think Newcastle are in a situation where getting safe this season and giving Eddie Howe tools in the summer, again, a chance to build foundations there and see where it takes you. So, listen, lovely bloke. Good, honest, hard-working squad that he's built there. But Spurs need to win on Sunday. They have to win.
So, again, do you see you causing us trouble? Again, I appreciate, you know, we're at opposite ends of the table, so you would fully expect Spurs to give us trouble.
Spurs are such an odd team, Matty. You know, you've seen this season. We referenced it earlier. Southampton, Wolves, games that you would expect Spurs to win, they haven't. Newcastle, Spurs are on a run now where they've got themselves this really settled side. Bentancur's come in, Kulusevski's come in. They've done really, really well. Kane is on form, as we've seen. Obviously, Spurs have got a couple of injury problems. We'll have to wait and see what's happening with Skip, who's been out long term. It'd be great to have him back, but I think that's probably going to be a game too early for him. Ben Davies has come back. I think more on precaution than anything else, with a slight tightness of the, I think, of the thigh. So, yeah, I mean, listen, confidently, I believe your prediction. I'll say 2-1 Spurs. It won't be an easy game. Newcastle will be way up for this. I mean, every time I've seen Newcastle, they didn't play great against Everton. Newcastle stayed in games, and that's what is going to be difficult for Spurs. I think, you know, they're not going to blow them away. Newcastle will be compact. They'll look to hit Spurs maybe on the counter-attack, or they maybe have the possession and maybe frustrate Spurs. So I'll go 2-1 Spurs. It won't be an easy game though at all. Newcastle are a good side, good manager, and the fan base will make a lot of noise. I'm sure they will.
Well, hopefully, if you're going to put the mockers on one thing, it's you saying that we're not going to get blown away, because that's one thing that I think has been great under Eddie Howe is you know, we haven't been hammered barring Leicester away 4-0, but since our run, if we do concede or we don't look, well, yeah, we conceded 1-0 away at West Ham, 1-0 away at Southampton, and we didn't end up losing either game. And that's something that's been lacking in our squad and our team ethic for a long time. So, yeah, I mean, 2-1, I can see why you're going for that. I mean, personally, I would definitely take a score draw. I'd take a 0-0. I'll just take a point now. I certainly think that you can cause us issues, but I think it will actually be a really good game of football. I probably won't be taking it in as a good game of football because I'll be tearing my hair out either way, because I'll just be on the edge of my seat. But, I mean, yeah, I think it could be a good one. I mean, it all depends what our game plan is, really. I mean, we went to Chelsea, we played 3 at the back. That was more enforced because of injuries. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. Do you see any sort of weakness in this Spurs side that Newcastle might exploit?
Fullback wise, I mean, listen, it's not our strongest area. I think, you know, Emerson, well, it depends what he's going to do with the fullbacks. I mean, Sergio Reguilon, Emerson Royale, they've got options there. Matt Doherty, Ryan says he's still out. So I think that's one area they can definitely exploit Spurs. I think, weirdly, I'd say defensively wise, centrally, we're quite strong now. Ben Davies has really came in and made that left side of centre-back place his own now, alongside Romero and Dyer. But I think that's one area Newcastle can exploit is the fullbacks. We haven't got great fullbacks in there. It'll be Conte. It'll be on his list, Conte, for the summer if he is here, to try and address that as soon as possible. So we shall see.
We shall see. We certainly shall. I'm not sure if St. Maximin will be starting, but if he is, maybe you know what you've just.
I really hope he isn't starting, because I think that guy scares me. So.
Well, it depends what St. Maximin you get, mate. He is a fantastic player, probably one of the biggest mavericks, but most dynamic players that I've seen in a black and white shirt.
Yeah, you're just not sure what he's going to do, are you? You're just not sure what he's going to do.
Exactly. So
yeah,
really inconsistent, but on his day, he's one of the best. So we shall see. But Ricky, we wish you the best for the rest of the season, apart from Sunday. I'm sure the same sort of sentiments are reflected, as you've said earlier on. But thanks for coming on, mate.
Pleasure, no problem at all. And likewise, Matty, listen, look forward to hopefully catch up with you next season as a Premier League team. I'm not to put mockers on it, got no doubt you'll be there. Great manager, really good set of players that will be improved upon in the summer, and a great fan base. That's all I can say.
I'm about to say something weird to say on webcam, because I've just said I'm going to touch wood. I'm going to touch wood because of what you've just said, but that can be taken either way. But we'll move on now. We're going to end this thing on that note. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching this video. If you haven't yet, please like the video, leave a comment below what your thoughts are for Sunday's game, and please subscribe to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel.